Hey, what's going on, guys? It's VenomousFatman here. I'm here on the BITT, the boys in the tube, and right now I'm sitting down with Raychul Moore, the really big cosplayer and gaming fanatic right there on the internet. So here she is with me on video chat. How's it going, Rachel?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on the show. So anyway, you ready to get started on this interview?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's kick things off. Let me start by asking, when was kind of like, your first introduction to video games, and how did that all come about, your passion for video games?
I was 5 years old, and my dad brought home an Atari 2600, and I've been hooked ever since.
So pretty much you've been gaming for years practically. Like, you've pretty much, really grew on a passion for gaming. Am I quite correct?
Yes, I've had every single system since the Atari 2600, including like in television, Genesis, all that stuff. NES, Super NES. I've had all of them, and I still do.
They're all working too?
No, definitely not. But some of them are still trooping, but I haven't really tested them in a while. They're mainly for display purposes now.
That's cool. So anyway, moving on from that and kind of branching off from that question, I wanted to ask also is that while you were gaming, especially when you were younger, was there any point where you actually got an opportunity to maybe game with your friends, maybe go to an arcade, or actually, what was it like getting together with friends as younger when you were playing video games?
Well, I grew up with a lot of guy friends because obviously I was into gaming. So we would actually, yeah, we'd go to arcades on the weekends, but also during school. I don't know if you remember Magic the Gathering, the card game.
Yes.
We played the Star Wars version of Magic the Gathering, the card game, and we would sit in the back of, I think it was like physics class. And this was, yeah, like in, I think, junior high school or high school. And we would play our Star Wars card games, and we do that during lunch and PE. So that was pretty much all we did.
That's pretty cool. So was pretty much Star Wars like the only real trading card game that you actually played, or did you actually branch off either to Magic or to Yu-Gi-Oh or anything like that?
Nope, just Star Wars game, but I do play a lot of, I call them nerd games, but they're like tabletop games like Arkham Horror and Citadels and Carcassonne before it went on Xbox Live Arcade and those type of games. I play a lot of those as well.
So you pretty much play a lot of hobby-oriented games, like like you said. But did you ever actually get a chance to play something like maybe Warhammer 40K, or maybe anything along those lines, where it's much more kind of like you're building figurines or something?
No, I never could get into the building or painting the figurines because I'm just not that creative. I'm a little clumsy when it comes to that stuff. So, no.
But in your opinion, if you had a choice, which one that you felt you resonated with more, or which one you had the more fun with? Which was it much more actual video games, like playing your Atari 2600 or your Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, or whatever, or is it more better playing the tabletop games, in your opinion?
For me, definitely video games. That's my number one choice. But sometimes it's fun to have like a group of 8 people over and we'll take out the tabletop games because those can go for just as long as like a video game session. Because like Arkham Horror, I think the longest we've played, it was a good 8 hour long session.
That's awesome. So now, for all those people that don't know, you're a big cosplayer. I've seen some of your photos on your site. I've seen some of the pictures that you've done at the different events and stuff like Comic Con or E3 and stuff. Tell us how you kind of got into cosplay.
I always took Halloween very, very seriously. So when I started going to Comic Con and found out about this cool thing called cosplay, I was like, whoa, you mean I can dress up as a character and it not be Halloween? Awesome, sign me up. So I just started getting into cosplay that way.
That's pretty cool. So obviously, since most of the cosplay I've seen you actually do is actual video game characters, have you actually branched off to maybe something like anime, or are you actually into anime?
I'm not into anime. I'm into a little bit of hentai because it's funny, but not into anime. So no, just mainly video game and comic book characters.
Wow, you're a bigger person than me because I can't even stomach hentai. It's just,
It's hilarious. Tentacles. Who would have thought?
I know, right? But but moving on from that, usually when you go to an event and stuff, or better yet, we'll say that for later. But one of the other things I wanted to ask, how did you actually get involved actually making a website or making like a Twitter and stuff, or actually putting yourself out there, with your cosplay or your modeling or your kind of influence in the game industry?
I was really
Reluctant.
that word. Yeah, that one. To start like Twitter and Facebook. Because I'm actually pretty shy and kind of hermit. I don't leave my house. I don't go to parties or clubs or anything like that. I just stay home. So like getting on Twitter and Facebook was very Like it just was very nerve-wracking to me. So I really had to be pushed by some of my friends to get on there. Now I love it. Now it's like Twitter is my main connection to all my friends, and all my friends are on the internet. So that's how I stay connected.
So pretty much explain to us how you pretty much got into doing your streams where you do kind of like, if any of you guys haven't seen it, she does pretty much, streams on, I believe now it's Justin TV, correct? I remember it used to be on Ustream before, but now it's just Justin TV. I'll put it in the description box where everybody could see it. But how did that whole thing come about where you're actually doing streams and talking to the fans and stuff?
Because again, I just never leave the house, and I don't really have I don't really call my fans fans because a lot of them are my friends, and or they've gone from being someone that watches my live stream to actually being someone I converse with every day online. So my live chats are really me socializing since I don't do it in the real world. I do it online.
Nothing wrong with that. So moving on from there, is there any point, or maybe you've ever considered the idea of maybe doing different things on your stream, like maybe gaming with the fans, or possibly, doing a much more like bigger open forum or something like that, or any other new ideas that you got conjuring up?
Yeah, I definitely want to do some gaming with them and be able to stream the gaming as well. And I have a capture card. I just haven't learned how to use it yet and get everything streaming and going at once. So once I can figure out how to get all that to work right, then I'm going to start doing live streaming of games as well.
That's pretty cool. So let me also ask you, with the actual thing with being able to like maybe play games online or stream, what is it, stream gameplay of games online, with or without the fans and stuff. Do you think maybe it's actually one of those kind of like highlight points that a lot of people have actually got a chance to actually tinker around with, or people, or maybe in your opinion, is it kind of like a good thing that people are now have this means of communication with each other over Justin TV or Skype or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I think it's great. A lot of people say that the internet actually makes us lose our contact with each other, but I think the internet actually makes our contact to each other even bigger because it opens up our social pool so huge. And you through the internet you meet people that you would have never ran into in real life. So I think it's awesome.
So, kind of going off from that, what do you think is probably the best thing to come off of like the internet itself, or maybe just in terms of gaming, in terms of like cosplaying and stuff, and that whole kind of like otaku culture? What do you think is the best thing to come out of it for that industry, for gaming or whatever?
I'd probably have to say, first of all, I'm not a huge multiplayer fan. I mean, I like multiplayer, but a lot of people will judge a game whether it has multiplayer or not. And I'm not like that. So I guess the best part of the internet meets gaming would probably be the games that we can now like download, like Xbox Live Arcade games that would have never really have sold as a disc only game, but they're awesome because now they're downloadable. But then again, at the same time, the internet's kind of cursed gaming because now too many developers rely on being able to just patch their games later. So they put out unfinished games. So at the same time, it's a plus. It's also a minus.
Yeah, really, very, very true. But moving on from that, before we kind of go into the next video, because we only got a little bit of time left, I wanted to ask also, kind of elaborate about, your first convention, because you said you've gone to Comic-Con, you've gone to E3, I'm pretty sure you've gone to a bunch of other conventions, but tell us like your first experience at your first convention. What was it like for you?
I believe my first convention was E3. It was 7 years ago. I've been to all of them in the past 7 years. And I went with Sony and PlayStation, official PlayStation magazine. I was there doing some video work for them. And walking in, it was like being slapped in the face with awesomeness. It was almost just like gasping and going, oh my God, this is amazing. It was like the first place I ever felt at home with all the people and just the energy. And it was amazing. It really was.
Would you say it was like kind of walking into like the nerd mecca?
Absolutely. It really just, I can't even explain the feeling that I got the first time I walked in. Is wow.
So you said you worked with Sony and also official PlayStation magazine. Tell us a little bit about that.
I used to do some beta testing for Sony and official PlayStation magazine. I was just doing that video stuff for them for their discs because remember when official PlayStation magazine used to come with the little discs?
The demo disc?
They had like demos, yeah, like demos and other stuff on it, and they would always put E3 coverage on there as well, and that's what I was doing with them.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Like, did you ever actually do kind of like a video cast, kind of like a little bit of reporting from like the showroom floor?
Oh yeah, that's my job. That's I've done that with EGM, Game Pro, Game Zone, and now I'm working with Got Game and Gamer Live TV.
So you're pretty much really well versed, over the past 7 years about, what's been going on with the gaming industry. Do you think, before, because I know we're going to say that for a little bit later, but before we get cut off, I wanted to ask you, do you think like pretty much, from what you've seen for the past 7 years, do you think like there's been a lot of good stuff going for the game industry, or are we kind of going in a downward spiral?
We hit a high point there for a while, and I think right now we're going in a downward spiral.
All right, cool. We're going to get more into that now, but be sure to check out part two, guys, as I continue to sit down with Raychul Moore. Be back in a second.